Welcome to the Grow Fast podcast, where we talk with leading sales, marketing, and personal growth experts about how companies can accelerate sales, optimize marketing, and grow their businesses fast. Let's go. Jeff, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
Awesome. I think this is my last call for the day, so hey, it's all good.
Right. That's always a good time of day.
Yeah. Hey, whereabouts you located?
I'm just outside of St. Paul, Minnesota.
Okay, so
How about yourself?
I'm out in Seattle, and
Okay.
I'm guessing right now, because it's midsummer, is it pretty hot and humid there, or what's it like?
Yeah. Yes, it's 100% humid right now. It's been like raining all day. And this, like we had a heat wave earlier in the week, over the weekend, and then it was like 95 degrees, and then I think it was Monday, it was like 60. So it was
Wow,
like
that's a huge drop.
Yeah, huge swing.
and for people who live like in places like Arizona, like 95 is nothing. But for people who live in Minnesota or Washington, we're like maybe 5 days a year it gets over 90, and people are like, okay, maybe we need to buy an air conditioner.
Yeah. It was like, oh, please don't go out during this time, for the air conditioner, because boy, that's a much needed accessory during summer.
Well, no pun intended, but I'm looking forward to having a cool conversation with you about marketing, because to me right now, the marketing landscape is kind of going through this massive revolution, with all the dynamics, new types of market paradigms, but also mostly because of AI and what AI is doing and how people's search patterns are changing. And I particularly want to focus with you on how you can create some great offers and you can get some initial traction, but after a while it's very difficult to scale. And then we'll just kind of see where that conversation goes. But before we get started, let me ask you this: I think you had a music background at one point, and then you decided to go to the dark side and come over in the business world and get into marketing. How did that come about?
Well, I got fired for the first time.
That'll do it.
Yeah,
that's it. I'm going to the dark side.
Yeah. So yeah, I actually had moved to Nashville to pursue music, and I was working temp jobs, and because it was just like we weren't making any money with music, it was like I need to pay rent. Had this job where I was processing automatic debit payments for people's like car loans and stuff. It was just like mind-numbingly boring. And I emailed my wife because I had like calculated how many hours it would take to pay off like my car or something like that, and it was like 3 years or something.
Don't do that.
And I was just like, I just knew there was more for me than that. And I emailed her how dumb I thought the job was and whatever. And I actually ended up emailing my boss, whose name started with similar letters. And so it auto-populated my boss, and I didn't see it. And I sent her the message. So they fired me.
Well, that's a little life lesson there.
Yeah, right. So I've never made that mistake again. And it actually ended up being a really good thing, because at the same time, I had just started like learning this new thing that I had found called internet marketing. And it was like, okay. And Fiverr had just become a thing where, like you could put yourself on there for different jobs that people might need you to do. And I kept seeing all these people doing voiceovers, and it was like, well, I mean, I have the recording gear, so I could make them at least sound better. Like I'm not like I'm a radio DJ or whatever, but it was
you almost are, man.
But it was just like,
gosh,
exactly. They just sounded so bad that I was like, that's maybe my angle, is like the sound will be better. And like within a couple weeks, I had within a couple days got my first gig, and then with a couple weeks had made enough from those gigs that I had replaced my temp job income. And it was like, I just can't, when I got fired, I was like, I can't go back to doing this mind-numbing stuff. And so like within maybe a month, I was up to what I was making at the temp jobs. And so I quit that. And just as I was doing these videos, people started asking, like, can you do the voiceovers? People were like, can you do the videos with them? I was like, sure, of course I can. Even though I was like, I don't know, like, I'll figure out how to do it, because like I want to make more money. And so as I started doing this, it was like super fun, and it's a creative outlet. And so as I started seeing like, wow, if I work harder here, I can actually make more money. Whereas at music, I could work super hard and nobody cares. But it did set me up to have a really good transition into like this space of marketing, because, I didn't know that I was like marketing when I was trying to get people to listen to our music or to come out to
Right.
shows and all of that kind of stuff. And so I just took to it naturally because I had been doing it for so many years.
Well, that's awesome. And then when you made the evolution from, doing voiceovers and videos, and actually starting to do like online advertising,
Yep.
where did you get started? Because even that's kind of a bit broad.
Yeah. So after the video voiceover, I got hired at a company called Lead Pages, and I was like early on in the team there, where they were like a newer company, and I was team member number 11, and in 3 years, I think we went from 11 to like 175 and like
Wow.
45,000 paying customers. So it was like a rocket ship. So I learned a ton about like actual digital marketing there, because like we were like full tilt, just balls to the wall, like doing a ton of stuff every day. And it was cool. And then from there moved and like learned a lot of, content marketing and stuff. And then moved to another company called Zipify Apps, where I was the director of marketing. And that's where I really like started having to do like the paid stuff. I had
Hmm.
started getting into it at Lead Pages.
Hmm.
Because I could see just like you need to know how to do this if you like want to get traffic essentially.
Right.
And then at Zipify, I started taking over that for the company and like really digging into that and learning that and how it all kind of works together. And then I moved to a company called Sales Message, where it's a texting platform where I'm just like building out like the entire, kind of ecosystem with ads and webinars and all of that kind of stuff. So had like a career where I've had to do like literally everything.
Hmm.
So it's been kind of cool to have that experience, because then I can see how all the pieces fit together, and then I can help my clients and stuff. It's just easy for me to see the holes because I've had to do it all.
Right. So, for most of the online advertising you've done, is it B2B or B2C?
I've done both.
Okay.
I personally like B2C more, just because it's you don't have to like you're advertising to the buyer versus like B2B. It's like, well, like I gotta kind of get them in my pipeline and then work them through there. It's harder to find like if you're like, as an example, we advertise to like CEOs or CMOs. It's harder to find just those people, so it makes it a little more tricky and convoluted.
Right. And maybe those are your target people, but they are not always the key decision maker, because a lot of times it's, buying by committee, and, and you have several stakeholders, et
Yep.
cetera.
Yep.
So, okay, so let's focus on B2C. Um, what are some of the, the key things that you should look at when you're putting together an attractive B2C offer online, and what are some of the key platforms that you would look at?
Yeah, I think like when you're thinking about the offer, a lot like this has just been my experience. Like a lot of times people put together offers that are fine.
Okay.
Um, the issue that I always see though is the communication of the value of that offer.
For
So
example.
that's actually so that's actually where I have my clients usually start when they're like, man, I just like cannot get this thing to work. I'll see the offer and I'll be like, well, the stuff you're giving them is totally fine. Like I don't even have anything that I would have you change. But like how you said that, I did not even understand what this was supposed to do for me. So we
Hmm.
always start with like the messaging,
Hmm.
and we connect it with people's problems. And I call them like action oriented problems. Those are the things that they're like out there right now, like Googling and YouTubing and like how do I solve this problem? Like they're
Hmm.
out there putting in effort to try and solve it. How do we connect what we do with that problem or that set of problems? And that's usually where I have people start, because usually that's not dialed in, and then they can't figure out why people don't want to buy their stuff. And usually it's because the people, they don't see that as a viable option for the problem they're currently trying
Yeah,
to
because
solve.
they're looking to solve a problem, not buy this widget, because they don't even
Correct.
know that widget exists, or
Exactly.
what it's called. But let's back up, and can you give me an example of an offer that was a compelling offer? Well, not compelling. It was attractive in terms of what it was made up of, but it was not effectively communicated to its target audience.
Yeah. So I have a client where we kind of redid a lot of his stuff, and he had started out and he was like teaching other marketers or like other marketing automation people, like how
Hmm.
to actually become a marketing automation specialist.
Right.
And for a while it worked. And he was riding off of a lot of authority he had built up from other positions he held at companies and that kind of stuff. But as he moved farther away from that authority, his like the audience started getting colder and colder, and people were like buying less and sticking around less. And he called me and he was like, "Yo, dude, I'm thinking about getting a job," and just kind of throwing in the towel. And
you're like, yeah, but
I was like,
over at the place I was working at where I got fired, they're hiring right now.
Yeah, exactly. And how we changed it, he didn't really change anything he was doing. He just changed who he was talking to. And he changed it from like being like marketing automation focused to data collection. And he's got fancier terms for this, but like he was like, nobody really understands what marketing automation means. And I really just like literally love building forms and figuring out how to collect clean data from the get-go. Because what usually happens is most people like they'll just throw a form up and not put any thought into it. And then like it just creates a mess that I always have to come in and fix. So if I could teach people how to like actually collect clean data from the get-go, it really empowers everything else you're doing. And what we found is when he started talking like that and then focusing it on the CEOs of companies, it like literally people are chasing him to pay him instead of him having to be like, I got to add a bunch of stuff to this to try and get people to buy it. They're like, oh my gosh, like how can we get started? And like, can we move faster? Like all of that kind of stuff. And so he went from, like almost folding to, being back in business. I think it was like 4 months. He was up to like 25K per month.
And that was just by
really
changing the copy of his ad or the messaging of the verbiage of his ad.
So the messaging, not just of his ad, of just how he was talking about it in general. So it could be ads, it could be conversations, it could be emails, it could be blog posts, anything. He just changed it from marketing automation to data collection.
Wow.
And he obviously makes it sound cooler than that, than just data collection.
Marketing automation sounds cool, but again, it's one of those things like, well, what does it mean? But
exactly, exactly. And so that's what we did, and it really had a huge impact both on his business and also on the value he was communicating, because it was like a side benefit is as he started seeing more people wanting this thing, he started having them telling him what the value of it was. So he was like, oh my gosh, like I never even thought of that. I just thought it was this over here, but they're telling me they're getting so much value from this one thing over here. Like it all just became so much more clear. And what ended up happening, and I see this happen a lot, is people get more confident about their offers when they're more able to communicate them clearly. And then it makes it easier to sell it because people are like, oh, I totally get it. Versus like, like when you're, I help people live their best life and, just get out of the muck and, they're burned. Like they just use all of those like cliche kind of like descriptors of whatever this is. That's like, what does that even mean? That like, I feel like creates an internal, just like lack of confidence when you're like struggling to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like how to talk about it, whether that's in an ad, whether that's in a face-to-face conversation or a sales call or whatever. But when you're like crystal clear on what it is that you do and how it helps a specific problem, it's like night and day difference. And like people pick up on that kind of energy. Yeah. I'm sure you've met people where you're just like, man, that dude or gal or whoever, they really like have something that is like very, very compelling to me. And usually it's confident.
Yeah. No, I've had both sides where you ask somebody what they do and they take a really long time trying to explain it. And at the end, you're like, I still don't understand what they do, but I don't want to I don't want to ask it again because they've already taken a long time.
Exactly.
And then you have people that are very, very specific. In the case of BreezeDocs, the company that I'm running, we help small and medium-sized businesses optimize their RFP response process, which allows them to win more business. Yeah, I mean, it's for us, it's pretty simple. Hopefully, you understand that. but
So, well, I don't understand all the acronyms, but I would assume the people in your audience probably do.
Yeah, the people who we're targeting, who are business leaders for small, medium-sized businesses. if they're participating in requests for proposals, they get it because they're a pain in the backside, and we help kind of make that pain go away. So then what is your process? You kind of look at what they're currently doing in terms of their communications and their ads, and then you just kind of help them kind of crystallize it into something that is more appropriate for their target audience?
Yeah. So essentially the process that I usually take people through is like more so, okay, they come to me with a problem. They're like, hey, my funnel is just not converting anymore. My ads aren't working. Nothing's really working. Sales are going down. So usually, yes, I'll look at everything and see, like, look at the data of, okay, from somebody seeing an ad or a piece of content, are people clicking through? Okay, what's the click through rate? Are they then doing whatever the action is there, and like just follow the data all the way through? Because that could be, an indicator of maybe there's a technical problem. But most of the time in that process, when I'm just looking at stuff, it's like, like you said, I don't really even know what that means. And then, so if I can't understand what it means, obviously no one else can. So that's probably why like things aren't, they're not selling. And so what I do from there is I take them through, it's like a framework I developed for just really trying to uncover, who we're truly talking to. And I don't mean like, a mom of 40 with 2.5 kids who makes $30,000 a year, like that kind of crap, like that stuff. It's like, okay, it's good to have a rough idea. Or, like CMOs of Fortune 500 companies, like, okay, it's good to have that kind of idea. But more importantly, okay, what problems are those people having? And like, what is like already rolling in their heads? And like, what kind of stories are they already, just running as they're laying in bed trying to figure out how to solve their problems, so that we can use that and join the momentum that they already have, rather than try and stop the momentum and be like, no, like that's not why, whatever. Like, we want to just join the momentum and start and join in the conversation they're already having by using the problems and stuff.
And, under traditional SEO and SEM for the last, 15, 20 years, you could do that. And then you would, optimize your content for those keywords or those kind of searches, especially the long tail searches. And for SEM, you would buy the AdWords or the search results for those long tail searches, and position yourself around there. But a lot of times when people have those problems that are kicking around in their head now, instead of going to Google or to Bing or to Yahoo, or Baidu or Naver, they will go to ChatGPT or Perplexity. And so you could buy all the AdWords you want, but they're not going to see you on ChatGPT or Perplexity, even on Gemini, Claude, etc. So how does that change the advertiser's game?
It's a good question, and I don't think anyone's really solved this problem, so to speak. The only kind of protection against that I've seen is if you can really like dial in your advertising so it's connecting to problems that people are looking for. Because if it's like a ad, let's say, that is just like, get a 14-day free trial, nobody really cares. But if, like, let's say, like you said, RFPs, right?
Yeah.
If it was an RFP, so I don't know if this is the exact language, but like, get more of your RFPs accepted in 15 days or less. That's that's a pretty good offer, considering if you're not familiar with the space, but people want to get their RFPs accepted is probably not the right word, but win more RFPs, or for sure.
Cut your completion time by 80%. Oh, okay. That
Something
makes sense.
Like where it's like hyper relevant to what they want.
Yeah.
And just calling that stuff out. That's really the only way I've seen to safeguard against all of this stuff. And you can't always, because like you said, people are getting just more and more, myself included, just going to ChatGPT or whatever and using that. I think
but ChatGPT they'll give you results. So for example, right now, I'm not sure if you today, but yesterday I Googled, what are the top 10 RFP response platforms for SMBs? and
Mm-hmm.
Breeze Docs came up number 3.
All right. Nice.
And so a lot of the behind the scenes kind of, I don't want to call it SEO, but I would call it LLM. Large language model optimization. Yeah. But some of the stuff that we've been doing clearly works. And then I even asked the 2 search engines, it was ChatGPT and Perplexity. I asked them, what would Breeze Docs have to do to increase its ranking on this search query? And it gave me they both gave me some very good and consistent advice with each other. Not necessarily easy to implement because the companies in position 1 and 2 have been around for a lot longer and they have a lot deeper pockets. But it's being pretty transparent, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to steal that tip.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Just like, what could I do to rank in ChatGPT or whatever? That's a really good idea.
But yeah, be careful because then the LLM might put you out of a job, right? Because they'll be like, I don't need to ask you, Jeff. I can just ask. No, but you still need to implement and all that stuff. What are some of the more interesting products or services that you've helped sell?
I've kind of run the gamut just through my career at companies and with clients. I've helped people from everything from like hangover pills to,
oh man, I could use some of those. So what was the buzz line of that? Not, you don't want to say, hey, hangover pill. You would want to say what the benefit of, you know?
Yeah, I honestly, I don't, it was so long ago, I don't even remember.
Did you ever try them?
But, oh yeah, absolutely. And
did they work?
It was hit and miss. Sometimes it would be like, okay, I feel pretty good. Other times it'd be like, oh, still feel like that.
I want my money back.
Yeah. The only way around that one is to just like stop drinking. And, you know, it's been an interesting journey. How that affects everything else, but that's another story.
Oh, well, no, I'd be interested in talking with you. Maybe not in depth right now, but some other time. I did 1 month without beer, and physical, mental, everything. My performance just went like hockey stick, man. And I'm like, whoa. And what I've been kind of reflecting on, and this has nothing to do with marketing, but the Growth Fast podcast is about. Also, it's about personal excellence and growing, professional and personal performance. But I was reflecting on this the other day, and I was like, okay, so when I wasn't drinking, I was also eating really well, and I was sleeping really well. And then you get this like 1 + 1 + 1 = 5 all of a sudden. Totally. And then I re-engaged with alcohol for a couple of weeks, and the first couple of days were fine, but then I just started making all these bad food decisions, just eating garbage, just fried food, stopping picking some fish and chips up or whatever. And then staying up late watching YouTube videos, and then being tired in the morning. And then it's like, what am I doing? And then because I wake up and feel tired, I really wouldn't want to work out because I work out every morning. Yep. So I'd go to the gym and I wouldn't be very, because I track my performance, and my performance would be down, and I'd be like, I don't know, man, maybe I should take a couple of days off. Just kind of like, it's just like this spiral, right?
Yeah, so, it's really crazy.
Yeah. I mean, how long have you, been abstaining?
So, your journey sounds so similar to mine. I did about 70 days.
Awesome.
For like some other, it was more just like, I was starting to try and like fix some sleep issues.
Yeah.
Which I was using ChatGPT for, which it was like fantastic because I've done like sleep doctors, sleep studies, all of that kind of stuff, and like nothing. And in that process, I was like, yeah, man, I think I'm going to cut out alcohol and caffeine and see if I can really get the sleep under wraps. And so that's been about as good as I've gotten it for a really long time. And then like you, maybe couple weeks ago, I had reached the mark that I was shooting for, and then I was like, okay, let me, see how it goes, because I wasn't sure, do I want to just keep going or whatever, have some drinks every now and again. And I was like, let me just see what happens. And same thing, sleep. Any of the days that I actually drank, sleep was awful. And one of the times it was like I had maybe 2 beers over the course of a couple hours in an afternoon, and that night, like just awful sleep. And it tracked back to having the booze.
Yeah.
And then with everything else, it was like, I don't know, man. It's just not like, you said, when you were sleeping good, you were eating good, and you were functioning at a higher level. And that's kind of fun, especially as like we get older, of
Yeah.
like, wow, sleep is like actually kind of the
Way
driver of
important.
all of that stuff. So
Exactly.
if that is kind of messing it up for me, I'm just like, I was actually having this internal conversation today of just like, yeah, like I enjoy having drinks with my friends and stuff, but I think I'll just probably not at this point for a while, and until I lock down the sleep thing, and then maybe at some point in the future.
I'm at the same point. It's like I tried to re-engage and wasn't happy with the results, so I'm back on the teetotaling side. Magnesium really helped my sleep. Just take there's a couple different types of supplements. I think there's like 3 different types of magnesium supplements,
for sure.
And that helped me. But it also was really important that because I like to get together with my friends once in a while as well. But I found some really good non-alcoholic
Nice.
beers that I actually, once I just start drinking them, I almost forget that they're non-alcoholic.
Yeah, same. Yeah,
and
for sure.
so anyway, so hangover medicine was one.
Just a little plug for this one, the LaCroix Limoncello. So that's actually so the one thing with the NA beers, they are way better than they were like a couple years ago.
Oh yeah,
like they're amazing. But I was kind of like, because I'm also like, tracking macros and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
and just like, oh man, that's killing my numbers.
Oh yeah.
And so I started having, like, we were on vacation and I found one of these, a 12-pack of these, and I was like, I'll get those and drink those while everyone else is drinking.
What are they?
And it's like a sparkling water, but it's just like a flavored sparkling water. And what I found was kind of crazy is fill up a low ball with ice, put that in it, and it literally was, for me at least, like just like drinking a cocktail.
That's awesome.
And it was like, that is what I'm going to do. And so far, like, instead of grabbing a beer or a cocktail at night, like, that's what I'll do. I'll just, like, same cup, fill it with some, like, a good ice cube or, like, some ice or whatever, and then have one of those. And it's not like I'm tricking myself, but it's like kind of, and it seems to work good enough.
Well, no, but I mean, if you think about it, a lot of our habits, our behaviors are basically, situational. And when you're around your friends or some kind of, like, I can go into a business meeting, never want to have a drink during a business meeting, right?
Yeah.
But you make it a networking event in the evening, and it's all of a sudden, and everybody else has a drink in their hand. So I want to have something in my hand, man. And it's almost like whatever's there. It could be water, it could be beer, whatever. I'm just going to drink it fast because that's my habit, right? So sure. I've had the same experience with sparkling water. Or like I said, the NA beers, where I'm just feeling like, hey man, this is awesome. So
yeah, absolutely.
But so you did hangover cures. What's something else that you've done?
Yeah, so I've helped a lady who was like a horse trainer with her offer. Let's see, another lady was I can't remember what kind of therapist, but she did therapy. I've helped a woman who was a declutter coach.
I could use
that. Another sleep, she's like a sleep doctor. Just trying to think. A lot of people that I work with are like transformational, like they provide some kind of transformation, and that's the kind of stuff that I like to mess around with.
Well, give me one more example of one of those people who came to you and they weren't happy with their marketing, and what was their messaging at the time, and then when you were done working with them, what was the end messaging that allowed them to become more successful?
Yeah, so I don't know the exact like before and after for like the horse trainer or any of the therapists and stuff, just off the top of my head, but like I do know the horse trainer lady, she was in the middle of a launch, and we were in a group together, and I was like, yeah, let me, I can see some things that would definitely help. Took her through the process. Everything about her stuff was all around like the program. And like, here's what you're going to get. It's like 4 modules and, worksheets, and everything was about that stuff. And it's like, nobody cares about the stuff. They want the transformation. And so what we focused her pitch on was more of, okay, if you're, a barrel racer and you're trying to, and obviously I don't know the language because I'm not a barrel racer, but get around the barrels faster without
Right.
like the horse. She was describing it where like they do something where maybe like they pull back or something like that, and that slows them down. So she helps them like figure out how to like read the horse so they can like help guide the horse to faster times. It was like, that's what we need to be communicating. The huge problem, we need to make them feel that of like slow times and all of the money you spent with horse trainers trying to like get the speed faster so that they feel that like, yeah, I've totally done that. I call it the OS moment. If you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
I've totally done that. And then after that, connecting with what they want, like faster times and, smoother racing, being able to like actually guide the horse and all of that kind of stuff. And then just putting it together in this program. That's like the last little bit, like the logistics. And I have this program that will walk you through step by step how to do that. And that's like all you need to really mention about the actual stuff.
Okay. So if I can kind of crystallize or just kind of, draw the key message from what we've been talking about for the last 30 minutes is that oftentimes people are marketing a program or features, and you should really focus on the benefits, or at least focused on the addressing the problem that your target audience in their minds that they need to solve. So
That's
if I'm
exactly
your
right.
target,
Yes.
okay, so if I'm your target buyer, what am I thinking of when I'm looking for the solution for my, what it is I'm trying to solve?
Yes.
So that's
Not
important.
like what you know the answer is. What you have to meet them where they are with what they think the answer is.
Right. Because they might not
And
use
like
the
a good
jargon or the
example,
terminology or et cetera. Go ahead.
they might not even know that they have that bigger problem that you do know they have.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Totally. So let me ask you this. I mean, because you're working with a wide variety of customers. How can you reverse engineer what their target market is either looking for in terms of benefits, or is what's the problem that they're trying to solve? How do you reverse engineer that?
Yeah. So most people are like, oh, when I say this, but the easiest way is to talk to people who are your ideal customer and literally ask them like, what is it you're trying to do? Like, what do you want? Why haven't you been able to solve it yet? What are you doing to try and solve it? How does that make you feel? Like literally just diving deep. And the key is, like letting them talk, just listening to what they say. And then you use that, like what they say in all of your copy, in your ads, in your videos, all of that kind of stuff. Because if they're saying it a way that like, that's how they're describing it, most times people that are similar to them are going to totally resonate with how they're saying things. So I literally like to have my people copy and paste what people say when they find like, ooh, that's one that I keep hearing. It might be not exactly the same, but similar, like a similar issue. Cool. Cut and paste.
Awesome. Do you use any kind of like analytic tools or automation tools?
For like the research part of it?
The research part and or for the like content creation or the distribution?
Yeah. So like you can use any AI tools, like they're great. And the other thing for just like the research kind of, building on that, like talking to people is the best. Then after that, like looking at other people in the market and then like going, if you see one of their ads as an example, like a competitor, see what people are complaining about in the comments, in groups, see what people are complaining about. And like, it's all the things people are complaining about that are the fodder for your better messaging and your better offer. And then what's pretty cool about, and this is the way I like to use AI. I like to use it as a brainstorming partner rather than like, hey, write this whole thing for me from scratch. I like to give it like, here's everything I've learned about these people so far. And or transcripts, like just put the whole transcript in there. Can you pull out some like, some commonalities you see between all of these people? Can you pull out the and list out all of the problems that they're telling me that they have, and like getting it to just do that kind of stuff versus like what most people that, you know, don't necessarily have a background in this kind of stuff do is like, hey, tell me what the problems of this person might be. And then they take ChatGPT's answer and it's like they build out all of their stuff and then nobody wants it. Because like it doesn't know when to go deeper or anything if you don't tell it to. Right. And that's why I love using it like that. And then that's how I actually like to use it for content creation too, is, hey, here's what I'm thinking. I want to make something like this. Here's a couple examples. Maybe if I like have either another one or maybe a video from somebody else, I want to make something like this. Can you help me come up with something that puts in this point, and this point, and connects to this problem?
Yeah.
That's how I like to do it. But yeah, outside of that, I still go old school on distribution and that kind of stuff. Just because I usually like focus on just like one platform.
So what right now for B2C, and you talked a lot about services. I mean, well, you had the hangover cure, but then you talked about horse training and sleep doctor, and I think there was one other one there. What are the most effective platforms for reaching consumers right now?
Yeah, I mean, I personally still think like Meta, Facebook, Instagram, just because it's the most advanced algorithm and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm meaning more specifically for like paid. You can do it organically too. Second, I would say probably YouTube, and depending on your age and who you're trying to reach, maybe TikTok. I personally just TikTok is over my head and I don't quite understand it. But like
I actually started my subscription a couple months ago, and my kids were laughing at me, but I use it for motivational tidbits. Like, okay, say I am, between sets at the gym and I just need a little pick me up, and I can go on and I type in gym motivation, and I got like David Goggins going, get the boats, lift the logs, this kind of stuff, and I'm like, I got to do something, man. And, or you get Joe Rogan saying something, or The Rock, and I'm like, oh man, okay, I got to get going, man.
Yeah.
And there's gym motivation. There's actually when it came to like my month of no beer and stuff. Every once in a while, when I was feeling like, it'd be nice if and then I'd go on and I would just do a search for 30 days no drinking or whatever, and then you get like these really famous celebrities that haven't had a drink for years, and then they're saying all this motivational stuff, and it's like, man, if they can do that, why can't I? Yeah. It's like, think about the pressure that they have in terms of the social life, and then people saying, hey, come on, we got this party, we got that party. I'm like, man, I can say no for a couple more days, So,
so absolutely.
TikTok's pretty cool for that in terms of me. I know that other people can go. There's different rabbit holes that you can go down apparently, but I don't want anybody seeing that stuff on my search history, so I'm really careful.
Yeah. And like, of course, like for more B2B stuff, LinkedIn is where it's at for sure.
It's interesting. So we were having no luck at all with AdWords, and then we went on LinkedIn, and we were killing it for a while, and then all of a sudden we actually increased our spend and got fewer hits or fewer demo requests. And I'm wondering, like, what could change where in the beginning you're getting, let's just throw out a number, 4 to 5 demos a week on a relatively low budget, and then all of a sudden nothing, and we're or 1 or 2, and we triple the budget. What do you think could be going on there?
It's a great question. I don't necessarily have an answer for you, but
Damn it.
I mean, it's pretty typical when you add budget that results decrease, and and that's like any ad platform that I've ever worked on. That's always been the case. The more you spend, it's some weird kind of I don't even know, like if you were looking at it on a graph, it must be like a conversion point where then like spend goes up and conversions go down due to something, and I don't really know what, other than it's probably trying to find more people that are outside of like the core group they know are converters for like whatever you have to offer, and then they convert less because they're a little more cold, and then maybe the messaging is not dialed in, or maybe like a funnel isn't just as efficient as it could be. The only way that I've seen people scale is when it's just like, it's just so dialed in that there's like, it's airtight, without experiencing that kind of thing. And even then I've still heard them say like, well, I could only get up to this much, which, you know, is a lot. Like some people are like, I could only get it up to like $100,000 a day. And it's like, I mean, dude, that's crazy. That's a lot. Yeah. But they were like, we wanted to scale further, but we couldn't. It just tapped out.
Wow. Yeah, maybe I'll have to ask ChatGPT what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, hey, anything else that you want to talk about and share with our audience?
I think we've covered a lot of ground. The biggest thing is just keep things simple, and connect with where people are at and bridge the gap for them instead of talking from the, you know, the other side of the bridge.
I think it sounds so simple, but people get caught up and get in their own way because, you know, the challenge is when you're a deep subject matter expert, you do know all this jargon and you see all this great stuff that you've built and you want to package that and show everybody, look at all the great things that we built and da. But that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for solve my problem. So you got to talk, you got to meet them to where they're at, as they say, right? So, well, Jeff, it's been great talking with you, man. I appreciate you reaching out and coming on the Grow Fast podcast. And if you're ever out in the Seattle area, let me know.
Will do. All right. Thanks, Mark.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.